Okay, so if you are, do we have someone here from Mid-America?
Yes, that's me.
Okay, that's you, Kyla, and
Yes.
Francis Tuttle. I think we had someone from Francis Tuttle. Okay, so even if you're not on the schedule for this year, this is just some good information to know what to expect when it does come up. But especially if you're on there for this year, I want to just put your mind at ease and kind of give you an idea of what's coming up. So let me go back to my other screen. See if I can move this where my camera is. I'm sorry, I'm moving things around. Okay, so you can see my screen, the PowerPoint, is that correct? Technology Center Accreditation. Okay, so what we're going to go over is accreditation for Technology Center teachers and what will be helpful for you to know. How many of you have worked at a technology center before or taught at a technology center? Okay, all right, there's a few of you. So you may have been through accreditation before. Accreditation has kind of changed from each 5 years. So now we're kind of in a hybrid accreditation model, and where you used to, things are just a little bit different than they used to be. But you're in a great position at the Technology Center because you have a lot of support from your administration in getting things done that need to be done for accreditation. What your part in it will be is they will be coming to you for information about your program, and you will be participating in the evaluation visit with evaluators coming to your classroom. So technology centers go through accreditation every 5 years. You are accredited through the Oklahoma Board of Career and Technology Education. We provide the accreditors and we do the accreditation visit, and then it goes to the board to either approve or deny the accreditation based on our findings. So we're your accreditor, but we're also your support. So it's not typical, but that's what we do. Okay. So how does a 5-year visit, accreditation visit affect you? I'm going to tell you what to expect on your visit. Who are accreditation examiners? Who are these people? So the accreditation guidelines and standards, there are 7 of them. There's leadership and administration, instruction and training, support services, measurement and analysis, personnel, operations, and system impact. You're going to contribute to many of these, either indirectly or directly, but we're going to focus on standard 2, instruction and training, since that's where the majority of what you'll be contributing lies. Okay, so let's talk about who the examiners are. The nice part about the accreditation process is that the examiners coming to your school are your peers. They're your fellow technology center employees and from other technology centers, as well as State Office of Career Tech employees. So because the accreditation for technology centers is institutional, or it's over the whole technology center as a whole, we cover all of the areas, what they say, from the top to the mop in an accreditation visit. So you're one part of it, but it's the whole technology center. So what should you expect? Your classroom will be visited, but the report won't be written on a deep dive on your program only. Though there could be strengths or opportunities for improvement written, and it could involve your program, but it will be encompassing all programs in general, unless there's a specific problem that needs to be addressed before examiners leave. Examiners will come into your room, they'll interview you, they'll interview your students, they might observe your class, but they're not going to stay there all day in your room. And there could be examiners coming in and out of your room, more than one, because they're trying to spread around and cover all of the areas. So how does somebody become an examiner? The Accreditation Division sends out the Accreditation Examiner application each year, and they're always looking for examiners. So if you're interested and your school allows you, it may not be too late to even get involved this year, especially if you're brand new to teaching, or even if you're not brand new to teaching. It's a great learning experience to be an accreditation examiner. You learn so much by visiting other technology centers. So it is a great learning experience. So we're going to talk about Standard 2. Standard 2 basically, even though you're going to contribute to many areas of the accreditation process, instruction and training is the quality standard where you contribute the most. So Standard 2 is basically program content and student leadership development. And so that's where you'll be able to help a lot. So in Standard 2, they talk about instructional planning and organization. And so some questions that you could be asked about Standard 2, either from an examiner coming into your classroom or from your administration coming and asking you for some information to use for their reporting purposes, are, well, probably from an examiner, how are your program or course outcomes determined? Something they may be looking for is, are you meeting yearly with your advisory committee, and how do you use that information? So it's always good when you have your advisory committee meetings to keep a copy of those minutes and the information that you got from that and your role, who's on your advisory committee, in your room too. A copy of it may be kept in administration somewhere, but it's always good to keep it with you too. And then you can always show them, oh yeah, we meet and this is what we learned from it. Other questions they may ask are, how do you provide work-based learning opportunities to all students? As an instructor, how do you recognize and minimize bias and stereotyping? If you want to see more, you can always look at the guidelines and the standards on our Career Tech website at okcareertech.org, and you go to the Accreditation Division and you can look at the complete guidelines of what they're looking for. And I'm sure your administration would be willing to share that with you also. And also, if you want to email me, I'll send it to you. I'll send you the link. Okay, another section of it is instruction and training. In instruction and training is resources and materials. So they're looking at, how do the resources provided to you support the learning objectives for students? And how do your resources provided meet the needs of students with disabilities needing accommodations or modifications? So if you've taught before, then you're familiar with needing to think about modifications or accommodations. If you've not taught before, then you want to make sure you connect with your resources office and that they tell you which students are on an IEP. If you have secondary students, which students are on an IEP or a 504 plan, so you can prepare for any modifications or accommodations needed. Sometimes it takes them a while to get this information, but they should deliver it to you once they have it from the sending school. For your adult students, they would need to self-identify and provide documentation in order to receive this type of help also. But if you have students who are on any of these accommodations or modifications, it is required that you provide those for them. And there are many different ways to do it, and your school can help you with figuring out what to do. Oh, okay. Okay, another section of it is leadership and training. So when we're talking about, leadership development. So this one's over questions about leadership, such as, how are CTSOs integrated into your curriculum? Because it's not supposed to be an extra outside of your program. It's supposed to be part of your program. Your students are, when they come into your classroom or your program, they are local members of your CTSO, whether you're BPA or DECA. So it is part of your curriculum. How does your curriculum intertwine with your CTSO? How do you encourage participation in leadership? They may also ask about your programs of work. If you're not familiar with a program of work, you're going to learn more about that in your BPA or DECA session. But it's basically a calendar of activities or events or community service that your CTSO plans to carry out for the year. And that's something that you usually talk about at the beginning of the year or maybe the end of the year before to plan out your program of work for the year. So then we come to student learning results. And the results are the data that your school will track from all programs, including yours. So they will be asking you possibly a year in advance or even more than that of the accreditation visit for your student data, such as your CTSO membership, unless, you know, sometimes the Technology Center pays for all students to be a member, but they may want to know who are active members who are participating. They'll be looking for competition results, follow-up results, such as placement rates. Placement just means what are your students doing after completing your program? It could be placement into, excuse me, into a job or into the military or entering college. All of these are considered positive placement and are a positive on your placement results. So if we look at some of these examples of results, like I talked about, placement rates are some results that they may put into the accreditation application. Enrollment, how many students are enrolling in your course each year, or your program, I mean, sorry. Or retention and completion, how many completers do you have? How many students are completing your program, or staying in your program and coming back year after year? Another example is placement rate, which we talked about. Are they going into any type of job that has something to do with your program? Are they moving on to the military, going on to college? All of those are positive placement. CTSO membership. And again, some of you may have 100% CTSO membership because if the Technology Center pays for everyone to be a member, but they also may ask for competition results. Do you have any national or state or national qualifiers, etc., things like that. Okay, so other information. There's also a civil rights coordinator who will visit your school. It may or may not be the same year as the accreditation visit. Sometimes it works out like that. What they're looking for is just to make sure everything is ADA compliant, and your school is really over that. How many of you are familiar with clock hours and seat time? Okay, so have most of you worked either in industry or in a credit hour institution before? So clock hour and seat time is something to keep in mind if you are wanting to make changes to your program, anything involving the changing of the number of hours of your program. You want to be sure and talk to your instructional leader, who may talk to the financial aid counselor. We've got restrictions, we've got benefits also, which because we are a clock hour school or institution versus a credit hour, our students have a certain number of hours. They've got to be in your program. If it's a 900-hour program, they've got to be there 90% of the time if they're receiving VA benefits, for example. So they can't just finish your program early and leave. They've got to finish out those clock hours to make sure that they get the program paid for the way they intended. So those are just some things to think about on clock hour. So mostly I just want to say, don't worry, the information evaluators in your school are looking for are things that you're already going to be doing in your classroom. So with that, I want to ask for questions. We have one thing in the chat. Okay, we have Gina Ellis, who served as an examiner last year. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, I think.